So here we are behind the wheel of the 2022 Buick Enclave in Avenir trim. And so this is the nicest Enclave that you can buy. And I wasn't kidding when I said that there is an aspect of this Buick Enclave that is sort of better than everything else. That wasn't just kind of clickbaity. There is something that is a very real consideration that you should think about if you're interested in a sort of premium luxury SUV. And I've had the Enclave a couple of times before, and it was always pretty good. There's nothing really that stellar about it, nothing like that stands out in the segment the way some other vehicles, kind of like how the Kia Telluride really stands tall in the sort of mainstream brands. The Enclave isn't necessarily super noteworthy as a premium sort of SUV, but for 2022, it has had a sort of thorough refresh of the front and rear styling, some updates here to the center console, and it's worth revisiting because I'll be honest with you guys, I'm on a kick right now of sort of looking at everything through a more value-oriented lens. And that's not just because I'm a very middle-class person, it's because with everything going on right now with the economy and inflation and all this sort of things that are happening, I feel like you're driving a vehicle like this, even if you have the money to spend on this, which this is $60,000, so it's not cheap. But even if you have the money to spend on this, you want to know that you're getting kind of a return on investment. So let's talk about the Enclave in this highest trim, which is one I think you should really consider, honestly, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then you let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Enclave? Is your view of this vehicle still kind of tainted by Buick's old school image of being kind of an older person's brand? Because I gotta be honest with you, I understand that, but at the same time, I feel like Buick is making some strides in not just sort of vehicle quality and dynamics, but also in styling. I mean, this is a good looking SUV now with the front and the rear updated. And I really think that the Buick Envision that I had last year is a very good looking SUV. That is a criminally underrated SUV in my humble opinion. I actually really liked that SUV. So did some of that magic of the Envision rub off on the Enclave? I mean, maybe yes, because we're on the handling road right now, and one of the things that I would immediately point out to you about this vehicle is it is extremely quiet and it is extremely comfortable. And I will say that I kind of prefer a little bit more of a sporty kind of handling vehicle, but this thing is so comfortable. I mean, the suspension, it has the continuously kind of variable adaptive dampers. This is something you can get on the Avenir Tech package. So you get the uprated suspension with the kind of continuous, variation, or the, active suspension, whatever you want to call it. And man, it makes a difference because this thing is like pillow soft. And I would say I ding the Lexus RX for being too soft on this road. I don't think this is too soft because it doesn't lose control. It doesn't have kind of that composure issue. It still rebounds a little more than I would like, but there's this comfort level to it that's different. And you can put it into the sport mode, in very serious air quotes, because this is a Buick Enclave. You can put it into that sport mode and it will kind of control things a little bit better. So I'm not even gonna really go on about the handling road back there because we've already gone down it and you probably barely even noticed. I mean, there is that up and down, but it is an extremely comfortable vehicle. So if you're interested, if that's a priority for you, the Enclave will not disappoint. Now, from a powertrain standpoint, you're looking at a 3.6 liter V6 making 310 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque, running through a 9-speed automatic transmission that's practically invisible and controlled by these nifty little switches now. They did away with the funny little lever, and you've got these switches that were sort of inspired by the Envision, and that's not a bad thing because they look nice and they feel nice. I don't understand why why you save console space with switches, because you don't save console space with switches, but they look cool, they work well, so no complaints. And speaking of that center console, it has been updated for 2022. So you have a new steering wheel that feels good. I wish it would come out slightly farther because I'm extremely tall. I'm 6'6". Hello, new viewers of the channel. Old viewers, haha, that's the thing I say every time. I'm 6'6", and I would appreciate if there was just a little bit more reach in the steering, but you've got memory seats. These seats have also been updated, and it could be my imagination because it's been a while since I've been in an Enclave, but I feel like I'm noticing it. They feel very comfortable, very supportive. They've got kind of nice diamond quilting pattern in Avenir trim. The Avenir trim has a lot of little details that sort of elevate it, and they do a pretty good job, to be honest with you. I think that it feels like a substantial step up over normal Enclaves, and that is something. I mean, the normal Enclave to me is a bit plain. This one also is a bit plain in the design. I'm okay with the materials. I feel like they look cool. You get the little kind of wood design here in Avenir trim, and the wheel leather feels good, and all the surfaces you interact with are pretty much all soft touch. So like, I'm okay with that, but it just doesn't like really stand out. It doesn't have that same kind of flair that you get in some other vehicles in this price range. Like, I'll give you an example. This screen is too small. It's just too small. I mean, we're now at this weird place in technology where this screen, which used to be fine, it used to be kind of average in this segment, is too small. It's like 8 inches or something, but like, you've got so many of the competition rocking 10 or even 14-inch like screens. I mean, just obnoxious screens. And because of that, things like the nice looking surround view camera just aren't as big and clear as they could be. And it's not like you're hurting for technology either. This thing has massaging seats, has a head-up display, has memory, has heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel. It has a lot of the features that buyers would expect in this segment. I mean, there's not really anything in here that I am wanting for my $60,000. But there is a little bit of a catch here. All of these options are great, and they're what you would expect for this class. But unfortunately, almost everything in here can be found in like literally every other Chevy. If you loaded up a Traverse, or you loaded up a Blazer, or honestly, if you loaded up a Trailblazer, you would get nearly all of these same options, and they're all operated by the same switchgear. So that is a little bit of a kind of negative, if you want to look at it that way, of the Enclave, is that you're not unaware that all this stuff is shared with lesser vehicles. And some other things too is like the gauge cluster. It's super boring by kind of modern standards. You get like a smallish screen in the middle that has sport mode with it's just a dial, and then you've got the more elegant looking mode. There's nothing really fancy there. There's not kind of a fancy adaptive cruise control thing, even though this does have adaptive cruise control. There's not kind of like a fancy monitor there. In fact, it's the exact same one on the Chevy Trailblazer. And then the analog gauges, because they're kind of off to the sides, the illumination sort of like falls off as you get to the edges. So that's not especially elegant, you know what I'm saying, in a vehicle like this. But one thing that this has plenty of is interior space, because I am perfectly comfortable and I'm very tall, and even sitting like this, I could, if I wanted to, sit behind myself in the second row captain's chairs, and normal size people can fit into the third row. But that's not what interests me, because I only have 2 kids. What interests me is the fact that you can fold that third row down and you get a cavernous 58 cubic feet of space behind the second row, which is really good, like really good for this class, and not all that far behind the Chevy Tahoe 72. And the Tahoe's quite a bit larger in the exterior, not to mention noticeably more expensive. So the fact that you can get this kind of huge amount of interior space in this vehicle, which is basically the largest vehicle like in this kind of class. When you're looking at that 50 to 60 range, this is significantly larger than an Acura MDX, and it is way larger than something like a Lexus RX. Even though it sort of lacks those vehicles' style, I'm not gonna lie, I think the MDX is a pretty good looking vehicle, and the newly introduced Lexus RX, some people are saying kind of polarizing looking, but it has a sense of style that this thing definitely didn't have before. I will say that the front and rear fascias help a lot. I think the front looks pretty cool now, but they can't really disguise the overall egg shape that the Enclave sort of always was. I mean, it is a giant egg, and there's no hiding that, even though it is more attractive now. I cannot stress to you how quiet the inside of the Buick Enclave is. It's sort of Buick's party piece, right? They call it quiet tuning, but like, it's actually a thing. It really is quiet in here. There's a level of sort of serenity here that you don't get in other vehicles, and they use active noise cancellation as well as sort of different structural things, adhesives and stuff like that, to kind of iron out all of those annoying vibrations and harmonies and stuff. It works. It's true. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of a selling point. You know, quiet is luxurious, right? And when you're in a vehicle that's this quiet, it also sort of by default makes the stereo sound better, because I was just listening to Lithium on XM, and I'm just like really focusing on the music and realizing there's not a lot of external inputs from outside, not a lot of wind noise, not a lot of highway noise, you know? And I think that's a pretty nice kind of unintended feature. Well, it is intended feature. It's a nice engineering thing. I don't know. It's a nice thing to have, okay? All right, so I said that there was a way that this is sort of best in class. Let me explain that sort of earlier semi-controversial statement. This is the best value as a used car. And that's not to say that the Enclave isn't worth considering as a brand new car, but 60 grand is a lot of money. But Buick has a pretty difficult depreciation, right? And so it doesn't take long for these things to come way down in price. So I did a little search, and I looked at 2020, 2021 Enclaves, which admittedly didn't have the new styling, but I was able to find some on Auto Trader that were in the kind of 20 to 30,000 mile range for $35,000 to $40,000. That's substantial. That's enormous savings. I cross-shopped it with the Acura MDX and the Genesis GV80. I didn't cross-shop it with the Infiniti QX. Who cares? Because I definitely don't care about that vehicle. So I looked at the Acura MDX. Well, you cannot get a current gen MDX for anywhere near that price. You can only get the last gen MDX, which was a very good vehicle, but it was definitely a last gen vehicle, right? Like, so it was older. You cannot even look at a Genesis GV80 for that price. It hasn't been out long enough, and there's not enough of the used ones on the market. Now, I know the market's crazy right now, but my point is, in like just a year or two, this very good premium SUV will be drastically more affordable. And you absolutely should look at this thing for 40 grand. I mean, even 50 grand would be a fantastic savings on this vehicle. So I'm sitting here going, look, if I could get this with 20,000 miles on it for like 40, yeah, like now things are getting real interesting. I can't get a Telluride for that. Can't get a Telluride period, because they're so hot and they sell out immediately. And because the Enclave has been out for a little while and it's getting to the end of its life cycle, you know, it's always smart to kind of look at cars and SUVs and trucks there, because like a lot of those little niggles have been like ironed out, you know, the recalls have been done, all those little problems that crop up have been addressed, hopefully, theoretically. But cars that are further in the life cycle tend to be more reliable. That's specifically why when I was looking for a C5 Corvette, I wanted a 2002 or later, because they had some notable improvements. So here you're at a 2022. The Enclave's been out for a few years now. It's had some excellent refreshes and updates, and it represents a very, very solid value equation. If you find a gently used one of these, there's not much else that I think gives you all of these positives for the price. Not really anything close. You're talking like a loaded Mazda CX-5 price. So guys, let me know what you think of the Buick Enclave. I'm curious. Let me know what you think of Buick in general as a brand. Would you consider them? And also, don't forget to follow me on other social media. I'm the same, JAX1079 on Instagram, Twitter, and even Snapchat, TikTok as well. I've been trying to post more content for everybody on those platforms. So don't forget to follow me on there. I would love to have a conversation with you guys, love to get to know you, and I hope you found this valuable. Until next time, ride safe, drive safe, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next review. All right, peace.